Hi, this is Gene. As a lot of you know, I've started recording myself. I've started vlogging and talking about some of the things that I want to try to help other people develop. And I've been getting a lot of questions about what is cross-cultural performance, or how do I define cross-cultural performance. So I decided to put together kind of a little overview of what that actually means. And basically, the goal of cross-cultural performance is to create healthy habits and to manage our emotions naturally. Now, one of the things that all of us have become is we've all become consumers of content. So there's a lot of influencers out there. There's a lot of influencers that I follow, a lot of people that I consume a lot of their content. And so the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what is the purpose of consuming this content? And how does it affect the outcomes that we're trying to achieve? So most of us consume content either to find motivation, to find inspiration, and a lot of times also to be entertained. Maybe we're taking an online course, so we're consuming content for knowledge. So there's a lot of reasons why we consume content. And the question is, how do we connect our consumption of content to the results and the outcomes that we want to try to achieve? So the three questions that I'm going to answer today is, one, is what is the journey to become a master of cross-cultural performance, because we do call it a journey. Why would it benefit you, or why would it benefit me if you're listening to this video? And what is the way forward? So there's a lot of concepts, there's a lot of principles. I've created a framework. The question is, what is the way forward for you to become a master of cross-cultural performance? So one concept that we're going to start with is what we call the essential soft skills that matter. And what we mean by that is these are the only soft skills that I think are relevant, that you need to really develop. And it begins with, of course, an awareness of yourself. That would be self-awareness. And awareness includes not only internal, but all of the external factors that are around you. So there's situational awareness, which is understanding the context of each situation. There's cultural awareness. So it's not just when Americans go to China and there's a cultural difference. I think there's cultural differences in any heterogeneous society. Even between male and female, there are cultural differences. And of course, there's an awareness of others, or what other people feel and what they value, and that's called empathy. So these are basically the essential soft skills that matter. And this is a concept that I'll talk a lot about in these videos. Another concept is what we call AMA values. Okay, so it's very simply, these are the only things that are 100% controllable. Your attitude, mindset, and approach. These are actually the levers, or the factors that are always 100% controllable by you to affect perceptions of other people and ultimately to affect the outcomes that you want to try to achieve. Okay? So let me put that into a little bit of context. Perceptions and outcomes are what we're trying to influence. So let's look at how we consume content or consume information or enrich ourselves. One is we try to learn things, but how does what we learn translate into outcomes we're trying to achieve? And then this is what we try to do at EME, is we try to help you develop the essential soft skills that matter. So let's say you have greater self-awareness. You're more empathetic to the people that you're talking to. How does that actually translate into perceptions and outcomes? Well, the answer is it doesn't directly do that. What directly translates into the perception of other people and the outcomes is really the adjustments that you make with your AMA values. So we're going to teach you how to actually make adjustments to your attitude, mindset, and approach. But first you need to understand there's a difference between the things that you learn, the things that you develop, and ultimately the things that you adjust. Because this is what other people perceive. People perceive your attitude, mindset, and approach, and ultimately it will affect the outcomes. The culmination of everything that we learn and develop is part of the equation, but ultimately people perceive what your attitude is and what your mindset is and what your approach is. And of course, these are the things that are 100% controllable. So if you learn how to manage or naturally have the right attitude, mindset, and approach, then you will achieve much better outcomes over the long run. So the context of content that we develop, I think this is really important because there is so much information out there. All of your favorite influencers, all on social media, and they're posting and vlogging and podcasts. There's just so much content. So I want to try to put it into context. So the concepts that we're talking about, whether it's concepts, whether it's principles, whether it's ideas, this is kind of what we for me, as an aspiring influencer, these are things that we want to share with our audience. Okay, and anytime we put ourselves on the video screen or we start recording ourselves, there's an implied promise. Okay, so what does that mean? That means you're watching this video and there's an expectation that by watching this video, you're going to achieve an desired outcome. Okay, so that's why these inspirational and motivational videos are so effective, because you're caught up in the moment and you feel that, yes, I can do it, but in the end, what do you actually do? So how consistently can you be motivated? Are you motivated in the moment that you feel motivated, but how does that translate into action? So it's important to understand that there are many gatekeepers that keep you from getting to where you aspire to go and the outcome. And all of these gatekeepers, they could be your boss or other people that you work with or your customers, they all have the choice to say yes or no. And if they say no, then you never make it to here. Okay? And then there are the influencers of your outcomes. Okay? So if you're trying to build a coalition to support you. Okay, you're trying to reach a wide audience to follow you. Whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, you're trying to get all the different stakeholders in your company aligned towards a common goal. Ultimately, these influencers, they can choose to like or to dislike you. Okay, so these are all things that are between the concepts that influencers present and the promise of the outcomes that you want to achieve. Okay? And in order to get from there to here, which can be called the promised land, you have to understand that it is the perceptions of all of the gatekeepers and all of the influencers of the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. It is their perceptions that will decide whether you make it here or not. Okay? So here at AME, what we've tried to do is we try to make this journey about understanding all of these elements in the right context so you can apply them to your daily lives. So over here, we're starting with the essential soft skills that matter. And these are the things that we help you develop. And you say, how do you develop those? So we have tools, we have methodologies, we have frameworks, we have concepts, but basically we try to help you develop two things that help this, and one is imagination, and the other is purpose-driven curiosity. And when you apply those to your day-to-day interactions and all of your normal engagements with the right mindset, then you start to develop these essential soft skills. Okay, and then once you have the essential soft skills, you can start pulling the levers within your control. Okay, so what are those? Those again are the AMA values. This is your attitude, your mindset, and your approach. And as you start to become more aware of yourself, empathetic to others, and of the context and of the culture that surrounds the interaction, then you can start making the right adjustments. So these are the things that you develop, and then of course AMA values are what you adjust. So as we progress with our training and our journey towards cross-cultural performance mastery, the goal is that these adjustments become natural. Okay, so then we continue along this. So why are we making these adjustments? Well, ultimately, you make these adjustments to improve perceptions. Okay, because perceptions of others, how other people perceive you, is what we want to influence. Okay, so this is what we as influencers, we want to influence how other people perceive us. And of course, our misperceptions also need to be minimized, because when we have misperceptions, it affects our attitude, mindset, and approach. So it's kind of a circular relationship between trying to create positive impressions, but also managing your own misperceptions not to start any conversation or any communications or negotiations down the wrong track. Okay? And ultimately, when others have a more favorable or positive impression of you because they've been influenced in that regard, then you have a more likelihood to achieve more favorable outcomes. Okay? So this journey towards cross-cultural performance mastery, this is the development journey framework. Mutually beneficial outcomes or win-win situations are what masters of cross-cultural performance consistently create. Okay, so that is the goal of this journey towards cross-cultural performance mastery. And here at EME, what we really want to do with these videos, which is just a really small part of what we do overall, is we want to create an ecosystem to support the development of the essential soft skills that matter, okay, for the natural adjustment of AMA value. So we don't want you always consciously thinking, how should I adjust my attitude? Because ultimately, that won't work. That'll be perceived as disingenuous. What you want to do is you want to make these AMA value adjustments natural. Okay, so that's what happens when you become a master. Okay, and this is basically at the intersection of doing business across cultures. So I think basically everybody that you interact with, they don't necessarily have to be from a different country. Everybody has a different set of values, a different set of beliefs, and ultimately you can say a different cultural system. Okay? So this is the quick overview of what we mean by cross-cultural performance mastery.